朋友们好，这位美国女士讲述自己为什么爱上中国，答案出人意料，在外网引起了很大的反响。咱们来看下面的影片。
So lately I've been getting a lot of people asking me why I'm interested in China. Over and over again, I will have conversations where I bring up the fact that I studied abroad in China and that I'm wanting to go back to China and work. And people ask me point blank, why? The United States is here. China is on the other side of the globe. It's a big change to make. And to a lot of people, when they hear I want to do that, they associate it with a bunch of risks. And there's all kinds of uncertainties that can happen with making that kind of a change. But I realized I've never actually made a video for you guys about why I studied China. I've given you all the timeline. I've told you guys about the fact that my dad worked as a professor in China for a little bit in the 90s. I talked about how I started studying when I was 15. I went to China when I was 16. I went back during my undergrad. You guys know I just got back from getting my second master's in China. You know the timeline. But when it comes to the emotional motivation, I don't think I've ever really revealed that. When I went to China for the first time, I went to Qingdao, which is a coastal city in China, and I went to a high school. I was there for about a month. And what was insane is despite being in a different country with a language that I was not fluent in yet, I had only been studying Chinese for 1 year at that point. I was 16 years old. When I was in Qingdao, I felt for the first time that I was being understood by the people around me. I felt comfortable. I felt at ease. And I hadn't really felt that to that extent before. It was a really crazy experience. And I think that's why it was so hard for me to leave. A lot of people talk about experiencing culture shock when you're in China. But for me, what I remember was how hard it was for me to come back to the US from China. I went to China, I felt understood, I felt like I was connecting with people. And then when I went back to the US, suddenly I was back in this place where I wasn't able to experience that anymore. And I was understanding just how much was missing. Being understood is what motivates my interest in China. It's a little bit embarrassing how much of my passion for China is really me projecting. It's kind of the thing that I want for myself. Where I'm like, man, I really hope more people will understand me, and I really hope more people will know who Susan is, who I am as a person and as a whole individual, right? That's like my favorite thing is whenever I feel seen and heard. It's the best feeling in the world. And I have absolutely projected that desire when it comes to my studies on China. And it made me so upset when I went back to the US and realized that China was not being understood. That when China was being analyzed, when China was being studied, it was done with this either fascination, like this fixation and fascination with an other, or it was done in like bad faith, where people were analyzing with this preconceived notion that anything that was happening was inherently going to be bad or negative or aggressive. Like no one was taking it at face value. No one was just seeing what China was saying or what China was doing and just going, okay, let's look at this. Let me understand you. Every so often, someone will want to give me advice about my TikToks. And one of the things that people who are unfamiliar with my content will say is that, oh, you need to make your content more like snappy, attention grabbing. It's got to be that short form. You should do like these little like news grabs and stuff. And I've, tried to do that in the past, but I always stop doing it because I don't want you to have a surface level, this is what's happening in China. Now you get the big picture, la 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 la, you're up to date. I don't want that. That's not my motivation. I'm not trying to make sure that you know every single headline that's happening. This is why my content is often so long, because my big thing is making sure you understand what's being communicated. So I use all of the words that I can because I want you to get all of the sides and all of the details, and I want you to have it all in your hand so you can look at this whole picture and go, wow, and interpret. I don't want to give you a sketch. And when people hear that, like their first interpretation is that must mean that I want everyone to go, China's the best. And it's like, no. When people study China, and this goes for, I mean, I'm sure this applies in like studying anything, of course, but just for me with China specifically, it's like, I don't want it to be a still thing. I don't want you to be going in and studying and just going, well, this is what it has been, is, and will continue to be. I want your studies to be this living, breathing, changing, evolving, developing thing where your views change, where the interpretation changes, where the country that China is able to change. It's not stagnant. I want things to be complicated. I don't want things to be black or white. I don't want things to be simple. I don't want things to just be labeled. I want things to be nuanced. I want things to be difficult to explain at times. I want that to be accepted, and I want other people to navigate through that with me. That, I think, is my motivation when it comes to China studies. It's so many things. And it's absolutely one big, fat projection. And maybe there's something bad with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to post this and someone's going to go, hey, that's like a super, super flawed thinking. And that's really, really problematic. Maybe. I don't know. But I feel it deeply in my heart and soul. And it's gotten me to this point. And I think it's led to me having a very exciting and fulfilling experience so far. I don't know. I think that could be the best mindset to have when it comes to studying, countries and different cultures in general, is this desire not to label, but rather to understand and communicate to others. Because it's nearly 2 billion people living in a country. Of course, it's going to be the most complex, crazy, interesting thing ever. Countries are full of human beings, and human beings are complicated and weird and difficult and confusing. But also incredibly valuable and important and deserving of being understood, because being seen and being heard is the best feeling. Not because someone's wanting to fix, not because someone thinks that you're, not doing good enough or something like that, but just someone being there and going, yeah, I get it. I got you. I think that's my motivation when it comes to studying China. That's why I do it. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. I just thought I'd share. Maybe I would find it interesting.
随着全球化的推进，越来越多的外国人开始走出国门，来到中国，了解这个拥有悠久历史和丰富文化的国家。然而，尽管中国在世界舞台上的影响力与日俱增，仍然有许多人对中国存在误解，甚至是抱有偏见。很多时候，这些误解来源于对中国表面的认知缺乏深入的了解。中国在很多外国人眼里，常常是一个神秘、复杂甚至负面的存在，尤其是西方媒体的报道之中。关于中国的新闻往往集中在负面事件和政治争议上面，忽略了中国社会的多样性和人民的真实生活。这种片面的报道使得许多的外国人对中国的形象形成了先入为主的印象，认为这个国家既古老又保守，充满了矛盾和冲突。然而，越来越多的外国人开始走进中国，亲自体验这个国家的独特魅力。他们发现，中国不仅有着深厚的历史文化，还有着现代化城市的面貌，以及快速发展的经济和活力十足的年轻一代。在他们眼中，中国不再是一个遥远的他者，而是一个充满可能性和活力的地方。这些亲身体验让他们意识到，自己以前对中国的了解是那么的片面和浅薄。很多的外国人在中国的亲身经历中感受到了中国社会的温度与包容，无论是与普通人的交流，还是城市街头巷尾，外国人常常能够感受到中国人热情好客的一面。相较于在其他国家的日常生活，在中国常常能够遇到更多的理解和支持。这种情感上的连接让很多的外国人对中国产生了浓厚的兴趣，甚至爱上了中国。爱上中国并不是一蹴而就的事情，它往往是通过长时间的亲身的体验和不断的学习积累的过程。 只有当外国人不再将中国视为他者，而是通过更多的全面和客观的视角去理解中国的时候，才能真正的感受到这个国家的独特之处，进而爱上它。而这也是全球化时代下文化交流的真正意义所在。总的来说，外国人对中国的理解和喜爱，往往是打破固有偏见和误解的过程中实现的。中国被误解的根源正是缺乏了解和接触，只有更多的人愿意放下偏见，去亲身的体验和深入的了解，才能让误解得到消除，真正的实现文化的交流与融合。